She had spent years stitching torn lives back together, one suit at a time. That morning, a powerful man walked into her tiny shop. Cold eyes, expensive fabric, and a quiet judgment she had learned to recognize all too well. She fixed his suit without asking for a single dollar, despite the way he looked at her. Like she didn't belong. But the next day, black cars lined her street. Men in suits stepped out, lawyers, and suddenly, her small act of kindness turned into something far bigger, something she never saw coming. Was this gratitude? Or the beginning of something much darker? Every morning, she unlocked her small tailoring shop before the sun fully rose. The place was modest. Faded walls, a single sewing machine, and a quiet determination that had carried her through years of being overlooked. People rarely saw her skill first. They saw her skin, her worn clothes, and made their judgments before she even spoke. Still, she worked harder than anyone else on that street, fixing hems, restoring suits, saving garments others had given up on. It wasn't just work, it was survival. Most customers came and went without a second thought. Some didn't even meet her eyes. She had learned to stay quiet, to endure, to keep stitching no matter how she was treated. But that morning felt different. The man who walked into her shop didn't belong there. His presence filled the room in a way that made everything else feel smaller. His gaze lingered, not with respect, but with something colder. And for the first time in a long while, she felt it again. That familiar tension in the air, the kind that never brought anything good. At first it was just silence. The man stood there, watching as she worked, his eyes tracing every movement of her hands, every careful stitch. He said very little, only nodding once when she explained what needed fixing. But there was something in the air, something heavy, the kind of tension she had felt before, the kind that never ended well. Still, she finished the job perfectly. When she handed the suit back, he didn't thank her. He didn't smile. He simply took it, paused for a second, and asked a question that caught her off guard. How long she had been working there. His tone wasn't curious. It felt calculated. She answered quietly. Years. He looked around the shop one last time, as if memorizing every detail. Then he left. No payment, no acknowledgement, just silence again. For a moment, she stood there, unsure of what had just happened. But she shook it off. People like him didn't see people like her. That wasn't new. What was new was what came next. The following morning, before she could even unlock her shop, she noticed them. 2 black cars parked across the street. Engines off, windows tinted. Her steps slowed. Something didn't feel right. She glanced around, hoping she was overthinking it. Maybe they were waiting for someone else. Maybe it had nothing to do with her. But then the doors opened. Men stepped out, well-dressed, serious, carrying folders. Their eyes locked onto her immediately. Her grip tightened on the keys in her hand. They walked toward her without hesitation. Each step felt louder than the last, echoing in the quiet street. She could feel her heartbeat rising, her thoughts racing. Had she done something wrong? Was there a mistake? One of the men spoke her name. That's when the fear truly set in. How did they know who she was? They didn't wait for her to respond. They handed her a thick envelope, official, stamped, impossible to ignore. Their expressions revealed nothing. No anger, no kindness, just cold professionalism. Her hands trembled as she took it. Questions flooded her mind. Was this about the man from yesterday? Had she offended him somehow? Was this punishment? She looked up, searching their faces for answers, but found none. Open it, one of them said. The words hit harder than expected. Slowly, she broke the seal. Her eyes moved across the page, and then stopped. Confusion. Shock. Disbelief. This wasn't what she expected. Not even close. Her breath caught as she read the first line again, trying to understand what it meant. The street around her seemed to fade, the noise disappearing into nothing. Because whatever this was, it wasn't just about a suit anymore, and whatever came next was going to change everything. Her eyes locked onto the words, refusing to believe them. It wasn't a fine. It wasn't a warning. It was a lawsuit. The paper accused her of damaging property, of ruining a suit worth more than she had earned in years. It claimed negligence, demanded compensation she could never afford, and threatened to shut down everything she had built. Her chest tightened. This wasn't justice. This was power. She looked up at the men, her voice barely steady as she tried to explain. She had done the work carefully, perfectly. Anyone could see that, but they didn't respond. They didn't care. To them, she wasn't a skilled tailor. She was just someone easy to blame. The street began to blur as people slowed down, watching from a distance. Whispers started. Curious eyes, judgment. No one stepped forward. No one asked questions. Because deep down, everyone already knew how this would end. Her hands trembled as she held the paper tighter. Years of struggle, long nights, silent endurance, it all came down to this moment. One accusation from a powerful man, and everything could disappear. Then something shifted. One of the lawyers stepped forward again, his expression unreadable. He pointed to a section further down the page, his finger steady, almost deliberate. "Keep reading," he said. Her breath caught. Slowly, she lowered her gaze. Past the accusations, past the threats, to the final paragraph. And that's when everything inside her stopped. Because the words waiting there weren't what they seemed, and in that moment she realized this wasn't just an attack. It was something far more dangerous and far more unexpected. Her eyes stayed fixed on the final lines, her hands no longer trembling but frozen. It wasn't a demand for money. It was a transfer of it. The so-called lawsuit wasn't meant to destroy her. It was meant to test her. A cruel, calculated test, hidden beneath legal language, was something she never expected. A full compensation for her work, multiplied beyond reason, along with ownership papers for the very shop she had been renting for years. For a moment, nothing made sense. Then it did. The man had known exactly who she was the moment he walked in. The way she was treated, the way she endured it, the way she still chose kindness, even when the world gave her none. But the method, the fear, the humiliation, it left a mark, because no one should have to prove their worth through suffering. Tears welled in her eyes, not just from relief, but from everything she had carried for so long. The years of being underestimated, the silent judgments, the weight of always having to be stronger, quieter, better, just to be seen as equal. Her life changed that day. Her shop grew. Her name spread. People who once ignored her now stood in line, waiting for her work. But the memory of that morning never left. Because for every story that ends like this, there are countless others that don't. Stories where fear wins, where voices are silenced, where injustice goes unanswered. This wasn't just her story. It was a reflection of a system that still tests people, not by their talent, but by their identity. And the question remains, how many more have to endure this before kindness is no longer treated as weakness and justice is no longer a surprise?